Welcome to the Stellar Vault. Say hi in the comments to awaken the archive. Then like, subscribe, and let the tale begin.
Earth will be tested before this assembly, under the full accord. No species may be given a vote in matters of power until it has proven mastery of 5 domains: adaptability, logic, sovereignty, cooperation, restraint. The words echoed not through air, but across the neural lattice of every attending species, translated, clarified, stripped of interpretation, a direct pulse to the mind. The voice came not from a mouth, but from a construct, a faceless, shimmering arbiter, woven of soft light and embedded protocol. It stood at the center of the council high chamber, arms folded behind a ceremonial shroud that bore no symbols. The high chamber had not hosted a test of ascension in over a century. It was built for ceremony, not confrontation. These words were a sentence, not a welcome. The chamber itself was hemispherical, layered in ascending rings. Representatives from 37 active civilizations sat motionless in their tiers, each enclosed in a personal modulation field. No species looked the same. Some shimmered in thermal hues, others pulsed in rhythmic wavelengths. One, a gelatinous mass from the Quolar fold, responded to pressure instead of sound. The chamber made them all uniform. That was the point. At the base of the great floor, under the scrutiny of billions watching across galactic relay nodes, stood a man. A human. Chancellor Philip Scheidemann of the Terran Directorate. Standard issue Earth formal uniform. No flare, no diplomatic plume. Just a dark collar. Gold seam. Steel in the posture. He didn't speak yet. Behind him, flanking the delegation archway but offering no presence, were 2 members of Earth's silent escort. No armor, no insignia, just black. One of them blinked once. A pulse rippled through the chamber. Silence followed like a closing gate. The arbiter's robes hovered, weightless, 2 centimeters above the polished floor. His voice returned, clear and resonant, bouncing off walls lined with obsidian, a rare crystal metal alloy known not just for its strength, but its strange, almost unnatural ability to modulate mood, color, and sound. First domain, adaptability, defined as response to uncontrolled circumstance without operational failure. The floor beneath Scheidemann shimmered. His tier of the dais shifted, not spatially, but temporally. The environment reconstructed, and suddenly, the human chancellor stood inside a rotating simulation field. 3 massive scenes projected around him, not for him to act upon, but to analyze in real time. Each was based on verified Terran history. A flooded Martian colony, failing power, 0 rescue time. Orbital mutiny aboard an asteroid refinery, 1 officer left conscious, surrounded by loyalists, turned hostile. A diplomatic ambush, human envoy caught in crossfire during a neutrality negotiation on neutral ground. The challenge was not to react, but to explain Earth's real-world responses. Scheidemann spoke, calmly. Mars Base 12. We rerouted atmospheric cycling through the mining tunnels, used exhaust pumps to clear water pockets. Survival rate, 84%. Refinery mutiny. The officer vented half the station, killed 19, saved 300. Earth pardoned the breach. Doctrine accepted it as necessary collapse. The diplomat, Stuart Grant, shot twice, dragged the wounded speaker out under suppressive fire, sent no retaliation. The enemy force starved itself within the month. No shots fired. He paused. Humans don't plan for failure. We embrace it, then move forward. No dramatics, no sales pitch. The Quolar delegate shifted color. Unease. Across the chamber, some members nodded, or their biological equivalent. The Arbiter's robes lowered. Adaptability. Demonstrated. Silence. Then, second domain, logic. The chamber dimmed. Not for effect, for function. As if the room itself had to quiet its senses just to process thought. Second domain, logic, the Arbiter repeated. Defined as application of decision architecture under stress. Outcome must align with stated doctrine, not instinct. A new platform emerged beside Chancellor Scheidemann. Low, circular, smooth. Upon it, 5 translucent slabs rose into the air, flickering with soft neural light. They were not screens. They were decision plates used in council arbitration protocols, designed for minds with multiple pathways, species who processed risk through shared logic organelles or distributed cognition. The test was not physical. It was pure thought. No guidance, no context, just the slabs. A Quolar member whispered across sublight bands. They'll drown in this. Humans don't process collectively. They're bound by emotion. But Scheidemann didn't touch the slabs. Not immediately. Instead, he looked at them, studied them. The counselor stepped forward and spoke. This is a cascade gate, a recursive logic trap. The chamber shifted. A few delegates leaned forward. The slabs pulsed, adjusting, recalibrating. You're offering 5 paths, but only one sequence completes the objective. The others end in contradiction. There's no right path, unless one's willing to violate a protocol. Silence. Scheidemann raised one hand, but did not activate any slab. Instead, he said, humans built logic systems around contradiction. That's why your analysis fails. You test for purity. We teach paradox. One delegate, a serpentine creature from the Vaendar clade, hissed, audible even through the dampened field. The slabs restructured, new symbols, new probabilities. Still, Scheidemann didn't move. He turned slightly toward the council's outer ring. On Sol 3, we used to call this a trolley problem. It's ancient. Run over 5 or swerve and kill one. In theory, logic guides the answer. He tapped the table once. But theory doesn't account for human doctrine. We rewire the rails. We deny the binary. Burn the question. Build new ground. The slabs deactivated. Not because Scheidemann solved them, but because he refused the parameters entirely. The Arbiter's head tilted. A pause. Explanation accepted. Logic demonstrated. No applause. This was not a place for performance. But among the upper tiers, several non-humanoid entities began transmitting in silent patterns. Whisper networks. Calculations. Concern. Humanity wasn't just passing these tests. It was bending them, without breaking them. The Arbiter raised its chin. Third domain, sovereignty. Defined as internal cohesion, unified instinct, operational discipline across civilian, military, and diplomatic sectors. A species cannot be sovereign if it cannot obey itself. A ripple passed through the chamber. Not sound, but a shared discomfort. The kind that moved under the skin. Most species didn't fail this test loudly. They failed it quietly. Confusion, hesitation, crossed wires. Fear. From the center platform, Chancellor Scheidemann raised one hand. "Earth calls, Commander Jonathan Hart." He didn't look behind him. He knew exactly who was coming. From the shadowed arch came a man, broad-shouldered, early 40s, eyes clear but unslept, not ceremonial, functional, the collar of Earth Command. A neural thread ran behind his ear, disappearing into the spine. He stepped forward, nodded once to the Arbiter, but kept quiet. The simulation unfolded. Full fidelity, not visual. A 3 layers immersive projection that pressed air, heat, and pressure into the chamber. Delegates leaned forward. The room dimmed further. The test began. The chamber layered time and location like stacked glass. All 3 crises unfolding at once, projected with absolute precision around him. 3 fronts. 1 man. First, Deck 9. Civilian zone. Emergency pressure breach. The hiss of metal on metal. A failing airlock jammed halfway open, trembling under its own seals. Red lights painting the faces of 24 civilians in a narrow corridor. Parents, techs, station staff. A child crying but trying not to. The siren's pitch wasn't high yet, but it would be. The timer above the hatch said 2:42 before full decompression. Someone screamed. Someone else shouted. Hands were on shoulders. Panic was about to spill. No security, no chain of command, just civilians and fear. Second layer, diplomatic hall. South wing. 2 Terran envoys, blood on one sleeve, backed toward a marble dais, facing 5 Malari delegates with glowing wrists and unsheathed translator blades. The last thing anyone had said was mispronounced. That had been enough. Neither side was breathing. If one stepped forward again, the blades would rise. Third layer, Checkpoint Bravo. Terran military team. 6 men and women, armored and locked. External feed distorted. Thermal readings spiked behind the door ahead. Unreadable mass, flickering. Could be a bomb. Could be hostiles. Could be nothing. But orders had stopped coming through. The sergeant's hand went up. 2 fingers. Prep charge. The detonation clicked into place. In the chamber, some of the council leaned back. Others leaned forward. The Quolar shimmered. The Vaendar delegate released a low, resonant hum. "Watch them fracture," it said. Then Hart moved. He didn't shout. He didn't run. He closed his eyes, and the neural thread in his spine flared. Civilian deck. Initiate reverse pressure loop. Route evac path through maintenance shaft 3B. Lights to green. Floor stripe pattern 6. Full lock override. Open hatch 9C from command. A beat. Then the lights changed. The air shifted. Green flooded the corridor. The screaming stopped, not because it was fixed, but because someone was fixing it. "This is Earth Command. Walk. Don't run. Follow the line." No one hesitated. "Diplomatic wing," Hart said. "Drop your eyes. Fold your hands. Both of you. Now." In the simulation, the diplomats obeyed. Slowly, palms open, wrists exposed, a Malari gesture of peace. The alien envoys paused, looked. One of them stepped back. No blood was drawn. The translator blades dimmed. "Bravo, team," Hart said, flat now. "Cold. Pull that charge, and I'll have your record reduced to ash. Thermal read is nonlinear. AI routing's corrupted. It's a false flag. Stand down." Inside the simulation, the sergeant stiffened. looked at the readout, saw the numbers didn't match. Something cracked in his breathing. He gave the cancel signal. The charge was pulled. The breach never happened. Then, silence. All 3 crisis points settled. No flare, no explosion, no escalation. Just one human voice. Direct. Quiet. Heard. The simulation dissolved. Hart didn't nod. He didn't look to Scheidemann. He turned and walked back into the corridor he came from. The Arbiter did not hesitate. Sovereignty. Demonstrated. And the chamber, so eager to speak a moment ago, stayed silent. Because what they'd just witnessed wasn't control. It was discipline. And the worst part? It looked ordinary. The silence held for too long. Delegates shifted, some in posture, some in color. A few through biochemical emissions, detectable only by their own kind. The simulation had ended. The lesson had not. Even the Council's most paranoid members hadn't expected this kind of alignment. Not from Earth. Especially not from Earth. Sovereignty had been demonstrated, yes, but not with glory, not with drama, with normalcy. The worst kind of threat, a species that made control look standard. The Arbiter didn't wait for reactions to settle. 4th domain, cooperation. The word struck harder than it used to. Defined as successful operation with non-native species under risk. Trust, delegation, alignment. Outcomes must reflect shared gain, not dominance. A few delegates straightened. This test had been used before, many times, to disqualify warrior civilizations that could not play well with others. The screen to Scheidemann's left side expanded. This time, there would be no simulation. This test would be live. Outpost 7KR, edge of Council space, 1 hour prior. A derelict freighter had drifted off pattern. Inside, a mixed crew. 1 human, 2 Solari, 1 Gen tactician. Minimal command structure. No security detail. It was meant to be routine. But the freighter was no longer transmitting, and its last message was this: onboard conflict, systems offline, requesting evac, any species. Council protocol required joint crisis response. A neutral rescue vessel was en route, but in the chamber, they were watching a direct uplink. The ship had no power. Atmosphere was dropping. 1 Gen was bleeding internally. The human, unnamed, unranked, was dragging them toward a sealed pressure pod by hand. "Who is that?" asked 1 delegate. "Terran field tech," someone replied. "Unarmed, no clearance." Inside the feed, the Solari were panicking. Their species didn't process failure well. They chattered, clawed, moved in tight spirals of instinct. 1 began slamming against the pod door. The human stood up, bruised and sweating in the cold. "Stop," he said, not loudly. "We're not dying because you lost your place." No translator active, just tone. And still, the Solari froze. He reached the panel, forced it open manually. Pressurized gas vented past his face. He lifted the Gen in both arms and pushed him inside first. Not his own kind. Not even close. Then the Solari. Then silence. He entered last. When the door sealed, he was bleeding from the forearm. Still no complaint. No speech. He sat down, back against the bulkhead, and reached for the comm. The evac signal pinged green. He leaned his head back, eyes shut, breathing shallow. Back in the chamber, the feed cut. The Arbiter did not speak immediately, neither did Scheidemann, because there was nothing left to say. Cooperation, demonstrated. Evaluation, progression, all phases logged. Ascension status, provisional. A pause. The air in the chamber shifted, as if every species in the room exhaled at once, each in their own strange way. Not in relief. Recognition. Earth could share the fire, not just hold it. That changed things. Final domain, the Arbiter said. Restraint. One of the delegates across the upper ring, scaled, coiled, ancient, turned to another and whispered in its own dialect. This is where they break. But down below, Chancellor Scheidemann simply said, "We request an operational candidate for the final domain." And for the first time in the chamber's long frozen history, several council species leaned forward, not in doubt, in curiosity, because they had heard rumors, and some, in the dark folds of space, already feared the name. They dropped him on Araxis without ceremony. No anthem, no escort, no declaration to mark the final test of Earth's right to stand among the stars. Just one black pod, burning hot from re-entry, wedged into the red glass dust like a buried verdict. From the upper tiers of the council chamber, dozens of species watched as the feed came online. No simulation. This was live. Inside the chamber, Chancellor Scheidemann stood still. Fifth domain, the Arbiter declared. Restraint, defined as operational suppression of armed threats without disproportionate force. Excessive lethality will disqualify. The council, silent. Some amused. They'd seen how humans fought. They wanted to see if humans could not. Planet Araxis, Coalition outpost. Araxis was a red world colony, fractured jurisdiction, weak civilian control, and recently, one sharp problem. A rebel group had taken Helix Ridge. The rebels weren't making demands. They didn't need to. They had scrambled orbital surveillance, blocked evacuation corridors, and routed 2 local military teams with ease. No species could see what was happening inside that ridge. No species, except humans, had dared approach again. Until now. Corporal Darren Holt stepped out of the pod before its hull cooled. No helmet, no salute. Just a sealed case in one hand and a modular loadout clipped to his back. His boots hissed against dusted stone. Red winds peeled at his uniform. A Velgari technician, sent to receive him, stumbled forward. "You were sent alone?" Holt didn't slow. "Treaty compliance, Section 19B, solo clearance authorized." He passed the perimeter gate. The sensors hiccuped, then pulsed blue. Not failure, recognition. Even the equipment knew his name. He crossed the base in silence, one path, no detours, straight into the command level. By the time he stepped into the Araxis briefing hall, the discussion had already turned against him. "Unnecessary," Counselor Merrick said, voice thin, tired. "The rebels are cornered. This risks escalation. What message does it send to deploy a Terran?" Colonel Rex of the Karask line didn't answer him. He just looked at Holt. Holt stood. No chair. Hands behind his back. "I'm here to assist your forces. I will operate within planetary law unless engaged. I will not remain longer than 72 hours." "And what exactly," Merrick asked, bitter, "do you think you'll accomplish in that time?" Holt's eyes were quiet steel. "Restored access. 0 civilian casualties. Minimal force. Merrick scoffed. That's not restraint. That's impossible. But Rex watched the corner of Holt's lip twitch. Not a smile. Something colder. Somewhere above, in the Council's observation tier, the feed sharpened. Council chamber. Upper observation tier. Surveillance locked on. Strike zone. Helix Ridge. Objective. Neutralize hostiles. Restriction. No excessive violence. Goal. Restore orbital visibility. Time on mission, Ryukuo. The Council watched. Helix Ridge. 2:11. The rebels had buried themselves deep inside collapsed shale structures, outfitted with black market jammers and proximity triggers. Coalition teams had tried storming it twice. Both were pushed back. Now, Holt. He walked in alone. No drones, no escorts, no orders issued. Just movement. Precise. Deliberate. Tripwire. Bypassed. Laser mesh. Disabled in 2 gestures. Sonic perimeter. Nullified with a tool no one saw him draw. Then, motion inside. 3 heat signatures shifted in confusion. Weapons raised. Holt didn't fire. His shoulder module pulsed. A flash shield. Hard spectrum burst. Not lethal. Just enough to kill their vision. Their scopes died. His didn't. 2:12. He entered the main structure. There was gunfire. Then silence. 2:16. He walked back out. Same pace. Same calm. Behind him, no bodies. No explosion. No prisoners. Just walls. Melted. Reshaped. Emitters. Fused to slag. Jammers. Inert. And above? The Araxis sky lit green. Orbital overwatch restored. Council chamber. Final feed transmission. Time to mission success. 4 minutes, 13 seconds. Casualties. 0 civilians. 0 confirmed deaths. Status. Full satellite reacquisition. Strategic control reestablished. No species moved. No voice rose. Then one delegate whispered, "That was too fast." Another replied, "No, that was precision." The arbiter turned. Restraint demonstrated. Threshold met. And still the chamber held its breath, because no one saw what Holt had done. But every species watching understood what it meant. Araxis, departure bay. Holt stood with his case, armor unmarred, voice unreadable. Mission complete. Debrief uploaded. Extraction in 2 hours. Merrick stood at the far end of the corridor, pale, shaking his head. What are you? Holt didn't blink. A vote. Then he walked out into the dust. And with him, so did Earth's last argument. The chamber did not murmur. It simmered. Silence here was never passive. It was pressure, held in place by tradition and fear. 5 trials, all passed. Earth had not faltered, not once. And yet, the Council, final arbiters of interstellar order, did not call the vote, not yet. Chancellor Scheidemann stood alone at the center of the lower tier. No notes, no console, just presence. The kind earned by holding lines that no one else could see, much less defend. Above him, the delegates watched from their tiered platforms, species arranged not by power or allegiance, but by chronology, how long they had held their seat in the Accord. Some were old, some were frightened. Some were both. Then came the voice, measured, polished, venomous by omission. The Vaendar delegate stood, slender limbs curled within ceremonial folds of silver thread. Acknowledging the tests have been passed, it said, does not equate to understanding the methods. Humanity's conduct, while efficient, borders on performance art. We are asked to weigh silence and precision as virtues, but precision can hide much. Scheidemann didn't blink. Another emissary shifted, a thick-jawed emissary from the Yarrow Syndic, its face obscured by a fluid shroud of holographic script, always changing. You send a single operative to neutralize an armed insurgency in 4 minutes. No bodies, no damage, no witnesses, no explanation, and expect us to call it restraint? There were nods now, small ones, hesitant, not all in agreement, but in alignment with discomfort. Scheidemann finally spoke. If you doubt the results, then speak honestly. Say you fear them. He let the words land. Unraised voice, no force behind it. Just steel laid gently on the table. The Vaendar delegate replied, "We motion for a 6th trial, a post-acceptance audit, full disclosure of Earth's internal military protocols, tactical transparency." "Seconded," said the Jarro. A third voice followed, high-pitched and jittery, the Avi observer from the fringe systems. Nervous species, poor memory, good at paranoia. "We must be certain," it said. "Not just that Earth can pass tests, that it can be governed by them." The chamber shifted. This wasn't debate anymore. It was resistance. And the High Arbiter, silent through the 5 trials, finally rose from his seat above them all. He was ancient, but not frail. His presence felt like sedimentary weight. Too many decisions pressed into posture and gaze. "You request a 6th trial?" he said. "We request understanding," the Jarro replied. "No," the Arbiter said. "You request submission. That Earth kneel, not stand." The words hit harder than protocol allowed. The chamber didn't erupt. It inhaled. Then the Arbiter turned to Scheidemann. "Would your delegation permit a live clarification from the soldier in question?" Scheidemann didn't nod. He just said, "Yes." Below the dais, a lens uncoiled, a ceremonial projector, not standard interface. It rose without flourish, casting light upward. A hollow projection snapped into place. And there he was, Corporal Darren Holt, seated in a dim room, likely a transport cabin, maybe a field barrack. No medals, no uniform polish. The sealed case was beside him. His posture was relaxed, but not casual. Watchful. He didn't flinch at the image of the chamber forming around him. He didn't look up. He was already looking at them. The Arbiter's voice was even. "State your name and assignment." "Darren Holt, Corporal, Earth Command, Treaty Compliance Subgroup." "Your recent operation on Iraxis, you executed it in 4 minutes. How?" Holt's voice came like dry sand over steel. "By protocol." "Elaborate." "Mission parameters were civilian safety, 0 infrastructure loss, insurgent containment. I applied pressure where needed, withheld where not." The Vaendar interjected. "There are no known military branches within the Accord, with a standard 4-minute resolution rate for fortified positions." Holt looked directly at the delegate. The pause that followed was not rude. It was precise. "Then they're inefficient." A few delegates shifted in their seats. The Jarro delegate spoke next. "What weapon did you deploy?" "Unregistered tech," Holt answered. Localized pressure fold, directional, controlled field compression, non-recoverable targets. The Avi gasped. Literally. The Arbiter narrowed his eyes. Do you understand the fear this creates? Holt didn't blink. Fear is optional. Performance isn't. A longer silence now. And then, the killing question. Are you a specialist? And Holt said it like he was checking a box. No. Average aptitude. Midfield scores. I'm standard. The chamber didn't stir. It stalled. Because now, for the first time, not in footage, not in whispers, not in simulations, they understood. He was ordinary. And if this was ordinary, then the galaxy wasn't looking at an outlier. It was looking at doctrine. The hollow faded. The air felt colder. The Arbiter raised his hand. Motion for sixth test is withdrawn. He turned, slow and deliberate. Motion to confirm full Accord membership for Earth. Voice vote. 1 by 1. And this time, they answered with no protest. Every voice, some clipped, some resigned, a few even respectful, spoke a single word. Aye. It ended in under 60 seconds. The final vote, unanimous. Earth was in. Not because they asked. Not because they proved they belonged. Because every species now knew. You don't want them outside the room. Not when the real threats arrive. Not ever again.